Madam President, I would ask that there be a break in the record now while I talk about other matters.
Without objection.
Just a few days ago, last Thursday, our great nation, which witnessed another tragedy. Preparing these remarks, we were trying to come up with what we should say, tragedy. Tragedy doesn't quite convey how horrible that mass killing was in Oregon. Once again, a young man was able to obtain an arsenal of guns and end the lives of innocent people. 9 men and women woke up Thursday morning, all to attend Umpqua Community College. But they were assaulted and killed in demented, sadistic killing ritual. Lucero Alcaraz, age 19, Trevin Taylor Onspach, age 20, Rebecca Ann Carnes, age 18, Quinn Glenn Cooper, age 18, Kim Saltmarsh Dietz, 59 years old, Lucas Ibow, 18 years old, Jason Dale Johnson, 34, Lawrence Levine, 67, Serena Dawn Moore, 44, all victims of a deranged gunman's murderous attack. Mr. President, our hearts are broken for the families and loved ones, the victims, and for this whole community of Roseburg. But a broken heart really isn't enough, is it? This senseless act of gun violence is not an isolated tragedy. Communities all around our nation are shattered daily by these cruel and undeserved acts of gun violence. The reality of gun violence in the United States is not only shocking, it's pathetic. Every day, Madam President, every day gun violence claims the lives of 30 Americans. Tomorrow at this time, 4:15, 24 hours from now, about 30 more Americans will be killed by guns. 11,000 Americans are murdered with guns each year. This year alone, the year's not over, we've had 200 mass shootings. 200. Anywhere else in the world, these alarming facts would prompt action. Sadly, here in the United States, we've become so desensitized to the lives that are taken every day by guns, the response is to do nothing. To do nothing. Each time gun violence claims the life of an American, the nation follows the same routine. Here's what it is. Same thing happens. We have shock and sorrow. Then we start asking questions. Who was it? Who did that? Who was the killer? We usually have to wait a few hours to find out who it was. Why did he do this? Why did he carry out this horrible act? Then we wonder, when most of the time allowed, what could we as a nation have done to prevent this terrible thing from happening? But we don't do anything. We don't act. It's within our power to reduce gun violence in the nation and prevent mass shootings. Not all of them, but some of them, a few of them. We know these tragic events almost always occur in instances where somebody's unstable and they are terribly violent, and they're able to get a gun easily and use it to carry out these terrible attacks. We know this, yet we fail to pass improved federal laws placing distance between mentally ill, violent people and guns. Instead of taking action, lawmakers all around this country pander to the extreme right-wing gun lobby and leave Americans vulnerable to these attacks. This year alone, there have been more than 200 mass shootings. This year, the United States is the global leader in mass shootings. This great nation. Can't we raise standards in this country for gun purchases? The answer, of course, is yes. We can do it by not infringing on rights or restrict access to firearms, but to keep Americans safe. Let's not mince words about who has stopped us from passing background checks. Republicans have waged a right-wing ideological crusade, fashioned by the National Rifle Association and Gun Owners of America. These two organizations are in a scramble to who can raise the most money. That's what it's all about. One of them does something, the other will do better than that. And they're out, each request comes with, can you send us some money? This right-wing ideological crusade, fashioned by the NRA and Gun Owners of America, is to prevent background checks that would keep guns out of the hands of terrorists, criminals, and mentally ill. The National Rifle Association is a far cry from the sportsman's organization it once was. The NRA, Madam President, once called mandatory universal background checks reasonable. That's what they said. Now uses its energies and its members to fight against even the most sensible reforms. In opposition to this deadly agenda, Democrats have long sought to strengthen the background checks. But instead of joining Democrats in finding ways to protect American lives, Republicans have pledged their loyalty to what was once a moderate sportsman's organization. Times have changed. Now the NRA and its leadership are committed to a radical agenda that allows criminals and mentally ill Americans to access guns and commit these terrible acts. Is this what the American people elected us to do? I think not. Is this a protection they want or deserve? I think not. Mr. President, Americans are smarter than that. They deserve better than that. The majority of people who belong to the NRA believe there should be background checks to stop people who are mentally unstable and are criminals from buying guns. 90% of gun owners believe there should be background checks, including 86% of Republicans. But even in the face of overwhelming public support, Republicans still refuse to join Democrats in taking steps to implement background checks that could save the lives of countless Americans. We've witnessed the consequence of inaction too often. Why do I say that? This isn't over a period of many, many years, not decades. Fort Hood, 13 Americans killed. Tucson, 6 Americans killed. Carson City, 4 Americans killed. Newton, 27 Americans killed, including 22 babies, little tiny children. Aurora, 12 Americans killed. Navy Yard here in D.C., 12 Americans killed. Charleston, 9 Americans killed while worshiping. Monetta, Virginia, 2 journalists shot to death on live television. Now the massacre at Umpqua, 9 dead. These tragic events have shattered the lives of too many families. The shooter was armed with, listen to this, was armed with 6 firearms, loads of ammunition, and when they came to his home, they found 14 guns and another gun. Thought it was only 14, but no, they found another one. So you add them up. That's 15 plus 6, 21 guns. 21 guns. We do not yet know why this young man murdered these innocent people in cold blood. But what does it say about our country that are willing to stand by idle while these tragedies happen? Smarter gun laws in this country are long overdue. The lives of innocent men and women and babies and children are at stake. How many more? How many more innocent lives must be taken before we're willing that? How many more communities and families' lives will be shattered? How many more sacred places of worship will be violently attacked? How many more colleges or schools will be terrorized and forever traumatized by this gun violence? How many more Americans will we mourn? How many more solemn statements, speeches of condemnation, and frank discussions must take place? What will it take before we stand up as a nation and say, enough? Not another innocent American will fall victim to this ideological crusade of having more guns and more guns and more guns. If we don't take action, we're equally responsible for innocent deaths as the sick individuals who plot and carry out these horrific massacres. I've started to reach out to senators and talking about what can be done to advance the cause of background checks while Republicans are in charge for the next year or so. But one thing is clear. To pass background checks, we need Republicans to stop acting as puppets of the NRA. Madam President, I see nothing here on the floor. Anyone willing to speak? So would you announce what the schedule is for the rest of the day?
Under the previous order, the leadership time is reserved. Under the previous order, the Senate will be in a period of morning business until 5 p.m., with senators permitted to speak therein for up to 10 minutes each.
I'm the leading state sponsor of terrorism.